I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to advocate for a research day. Now, before I fully get into what that means, how you can do it, and more importantly, how it'll affect your life for the positive, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, let's get into this. So, a research day for me is, you can call it a research day, you can call it a learning day, but essentially it's taking time to learn something that you've been wanting to kind of deep dive, right? And it doesn't mean, learn everything about it, but just at least to understand, right? So let me give you an example. For me, there's a lot of innovation happening in filmmaking with Unreal Engine and Metahumans, and if you have no clue what that means, that's okay. It essentially is just computer CGI technology, along with motion capture and so forth, right? Just really big innovations. And I've been seeing a lot of articles and videos and podcast episodes about this. And, as a filmmaker, I always like to have my finger on the pulse of what's next, so I can utilize it. And so for me, it's like, all right, well, let me dedicate, for me. And when I say a day, it doesn't have to be like the full day, but maybe 4 to 6 hours where I consciously just sit and absorb this various information. And in that sense, I did, right? So with regard to Unreal Engine and Metahumans, I listened to podcasts, I watched all these videos, read articles, and I'm no expert, but I know how it should be utilized and what it's capable of, so that way I can start thinking about it for my movies. And even though I can't necessarily do it myself, I know how to communicate to the team that would be doing it. And conversely, I know how to help them out so that way how we shoot it and so forth, doesn't screw them over, right? It's all fitting pieces into the puzzle, as they say, right? Another example for me of recent memory is getting into the NFT space, right? So I've been hearing about, just on the cursory level, what are NFTs, what could be the benefits, especially from someone like Gary Vee. But it's like, okay, well, how do you even go about it? How do you actually mint an NFT? What does it take? And so forth, right? And so I spent time really deep diving that aspect of it enough to be like, okay, cool. Now I have a better understanding. And that one in particular, I do want to try to just do a short film and actually put it up as an NFT film itself, right? So, all this really to say that, number one, as you probably know, I'm a big advocate of technology being liberating for our business, right? And even if you're someone like a writer, right? There's plenty of advancements within the writing field. Outlining software, better writing software that allows you to track various plot points better, and all this stuff, right? Rather than just the antiquated just Microsoft Word or whatever. And I'm not knocking them. That could still be part of your toolkit, but there's all these other great resources as well. Even just kind of one, let's say, innovation, Descript, for example. You can type in words and then create an artificial human's voice. Now, it's not perfect, right? It does sound still robotic, but it's certainly an advancement if you wanted to do like a virtual table read for a script that you wrote, right? So understanding technology allows you to further your creativity, and ultimately the goal is to be able to work at the speed of thought, right? And by knowing various technologies that exist and how to possibly utilize them gets you closer to that. Or it allows you to collaborate with people easier, in a way, like if you don't know how to do that, that's okay. You know what it entails, right? And even just from a pricing perspective, generally for me, I can keep my costs low whenever I hire somebody to do something that I can't, because I know exactly what I need from them. And so I'm very specific, and I lay it all out, and then they just have to essentially push the button, not literally just one button, but that's the premise, as opposed to, I have no idea what I'm talking about, because then in that sense, it's just them going through it and sending you, does this look good? Would this look good? And essentially they're just taking time to tinker with things until you get to the end result. Whereas this is it just cuts through all that and gets to here we go. This is it. This is what I need. And so, yeah, that's why it works for me. And this really speaks to whenever I interview somebody, one of the questions I like to ask them is, with an ever-changing sort of landscape within our business, how do you keep up and stay up to date? And I look for answers, what magazines are they reading? What podcasts are they reading? And part of it is I want to know that they are staying up to date, but it's also, secondly, just a fun way for me to jot down of what are they looking at and so forth. Because I think it can be too easy to stay in our comfort zone. And again, not that the adage of if it ain't broke, don't fix it isn't a good one. Sometimes tinkering for the sake of tinkering isn't good. But just, seeing what's out there isn't necessarily a bad thing, and reconsidering, how it might fit into your process is a good thing, right? So that is why I recommend to you a research/learning day. And, depending on things, it could be something as simple as just once a month, right? You dedicate 4 hours once a month to a topic that you're interested in. And then if afterwards, right, you want to go further with it, like me with NFTs, well then, you have the option to do that and really deep dive. But really, the idea is just to give you at least that cursory knowledge and introduce you to it, and then allow you the option of okay, cool, I know that. That could be useful for X, Y, and Z down the line, however, right? And that's a key component to it, is whatever you're sort of researching, always have it in mind of how it can benefit you and how you can utilize it, right? Again, whether you directly or you hiring out somebody to do it for you. Because otherwise, knowledge, just for the sake of knowledge, isn't really that useful, to be honest. It's how we utilize, wisdom is utilizing the knowledge. And so that's the distinction for me. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope you utilize it. I'm very curious to hear what you start researching, right? Comment down below, and the sources that you learn those things, I would love to hear from that. So comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Likewise, if you appreciate what I do and think you might benefit from my coaching, that is available to you. The link is down in the description box. If that seems a little bit too steep of a price at the moment, there's always my Patreon, patreon.com/PhilSvitek. There's various tiers for us to be able to interact within. Likewise, if you just want to support me, there are, of course, my books, my movies, my merchandise, all linked to in the description box. Supporting that stuff helps this because when that does well, I get to make more of that stuff. And when I make more of that stuff, I get to learn and share that information here freely with you so that way it can benefit you, right? So it's a symbiotic relationship in that way. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.